This happened when I was shopping at a grocery store one night about 2 years ago. I went there after work, so it was a little bit later. I think maybe 8 or 9 o'clock. The grocery store was really not too busy. I remember that I was just getting a few things and was in a random aisle. I was almost done shopping when this man approached me. I had been the only person in the aisle, so I noticed him when he started walking near. Then, when he got close to me, he said that he had backed into my car in the parking lot. When I heard this, I was shocked. But then I had 100 thoughts going through my head. I was wondering how bad the damage was and things like that. I just stood there, and I don't think I said anything to the guy immediately. Then the man told me to follow him and said that it really wasn't that bad. This made me feel slightly better, but the guy said he just wanted to let me know. So I followed the man, and soon we walked to the front and then left the store. The parking lot was really pretty quiet. I had parked sort of far away. I'm not really sure why. I always do that. It's just easier to park in the back, and it's typically faster in and out. So we walked about halfway through the parking lot, and then I could see my car pretty good. I noticed that there was a larger SUV in the middle of the aisle, like right behind my car. But getting even closer, I noticed that my car appeared to have no damage on it at all. This was really weird now. As I approached, I saw the rear door to the SUV start to open up. At that point, I saw this large man get out of it. Right then is when I finally came to my senses. I turned and just started running back for the grocery store. I couldn't tell you if any of the guys came after me or not. I just know that I ran full speed all the way to the entrance of the store, and I was able to make it inside. Once there, I walked towards the center and did not notice either of the men inside the store. My mind was racing from what I had just experienced. I remember just kind of pacing around at the front of the store for a little while. I wasn't sure if I should call the police or tell someone in the store or go back to my car. After a few minutes, I calmed down a little bit. I went to the customer service and reported what had happened. Then I went and finished my shopping. I had left my basket of things in the aisle where the man approached me, and by now it was gone, so I had to start over and get everything again. When I was done, I looked out to the parking lot, and the SUV was gone. I didn't see the men anywhere either, so I quickly walked out to my car. I was able to make it there, and then left and went home. Since then, I haven't seen the men, and I've shopped at that store several more times. Looking back, I should have been more suspicious of the guy. How would he know which car was mine? I mean, I still don't know how he knew that, but even if he had backed into my car, he wouldn't know that I was the owner. I guess I was too surprised to think about that, and I just believed him. Nobody's going to get me on that trick again, though. I used to work at a smaller grocery store near where I lived. This store was a local one that had been around for a really long time. I worked there for about 3 years, and when this took place, I had already worked there for about 2. So I was trusted to close the store and things like that. The store really didn't have many employees, and because of how small it was, sometimes only one person would work at once. So when this event took place, I was all by myself. I had a coworker earlier in the night, but she had since gone home. It was just me for the final couple of hours. And that wasn't a problem at all, because we didn't really get that many customers. So anyways, I was working by myself, and the store was completely empty at this point. We were closing in roughly 30 minutes. I was at the check lanes working as a cashier. There was a window out front that I could see out to the parking lot. It was completely empty except for my car parked in the back. And the parking lot really wasn't that large either. Then I noticed a car pulling in. It parked and a man got out. He walked inside the store, and I heard the sliding doors opening, but I wasn't looking at him. I think I was just looking down at my phone or something. I didn't think anything of it. So after like 5 minutes, I was just casually looking around the store. We didn't have that many aisles, but there were a few. I remember near the entrance, I saw the man standing like halfway behind an aisle, and he was just staring right at me. I found this to be pretty strange. The way he was staring at me was somewhat creepy. His eyes were unusually wide, and I didn't like it a bit. I looked away, but I couldn't help but look back again a short time later. When I did, he was still staring at me. I didn't know what to think, and it gave me a bad feeling. I tried to just ignore it. When I looked back a couple of minutes later, he was gone. He was still inside the store, because I didn't hear the doors opening. So I looked around, and then I noticed the man again. He was in a different spot and staring at me once more. It was the exact same way. When I looked away and then back, he was gone from there. But I then saw him a couple of minutes later in a different spot staring at me again. I really didn't know what this guy was doing. Why was he staring at me so strange? This was something that I had never experienced before. He soon went out of my sight. Now we were closing pretty soon, so I was getting kind of nervous about it. But just a few more minutes after that, I heard the automatic sliding doors opening. I instantly felt some relief of my nervousness from the man. Either he was leaving, or somebody else was coming in. I looked over and saw the man walking out. I was so glad that he was gone. I didn't really know what he had been doing, but he sure succeeded in giving me the creeps. After the man left the store though, I watched him walk out to his car. He got inside and started the engine, but instead of driving away, he went and drove like right outside of the store. He was parked a short distance away from the doors. It was as if he was waiting for somebody to be done shopping inside, and he was picking them up. Except nobody else was inside the store, except for me. This was really starting to freak me out. We closed in about 10 minutes, but I decided to go and lock the doors right there. I got up and walked over to the entrance. I figured that we wouldn't get any more customers anyways. So I locked the doors, and the man was still there in his car. Then I decided to do some things that I usually did before leaving. Normally, I could be quick and leave the store within 15 minutes after closing usually. But with the man seemingly waiting for me and parked right outside, I decided to take my time. I slowly cleaned the floors and then decided to go around the store organizing random shelves. I did a lot of extra stuff that I really didn't have to. Whoever was opening the store the next day, I'm sure, would thank me. But as I was doing these things, I kept looking over to the window and seeing that the car was still there. I ended up working for almost an hour overtime. Finally, the car drove away. After that, I went over to the window and made sure that it was gone. Once I was sure that it was, I quickly got my things and then left the store. I literally ran through the parking lot to my car and then went home. I was able to make it back safely. And after that night, I didn't see the man again. I still get the creeps thinking about him though. I'm not really sure what he was doing. I can only assume that he was waiting for me to leave. He must have gave up and left though, and I'm really glad that he did. This is something that happened just a couple of weeks ago. For a little background, I'm a female, and this took place at my local supermarket. I had to get quite a few things at the store, and when I got there, it was somewhat busy. It was nighttime, but there were still a lot of people around. I slowly went up and down just about every aisle. My cart soon became very full with lots of different things. I was shopping for probably 45 minutes. I'm not sure exactly, but I just know that I was in there for a really long time. Finally, I was done, and I went to check out. I paid for everything, and then left the store. Everything about my trip to that point seemed normal to me. I pushed my full shopping cart through the parking lot, all the way to my vehicle. Then I started unloading it. I put all the bags in the car, and the last things I was unloading was the large pack of water and Gatorade that I got. I think it was a 24-pack of water and a 12-pack of Gatorade. They had been in the back of my cart for the longest time. So when I took them out and put them in the car, I realized that there was this envelope in the cart. It must have been between or underneath the water and Gatorade. I really hadn't noticed it. For a moment, I was really confused, and I wondered how it got there. Then I decided to open up the envelope. When I did, it was filled with these Polaroid pictures. There was about 5 of them. I looked at them and saw that they were all pictures of me. It was me walking into the grocery store, and then ones of me shopping. I had no idea that any of these photos were even taken. Some of them were from kind of far away, and others were actually somewhat close. I tried to remember seeing a person with a camera, but I truly hadn't. I mean, there were a lot of people in the store, and there would be a lot of places to probably hide. Still, I was very confused. After looking at these pictures for a minute or so, I started to feel really creeped out. Maybe this person was still watching me. I looked around the parking lot, but didn't notice anything. Then I quickly went inside of my car and closed the door. I looked around the parking lot once again, but couldn't see anybody looking at me or anything. I really didn't notice anything strange. So at that point, I just drove home. I didn't live very far away, and I was looking behind me the whole time. I didn't notice anybody following me though. I made it back home to my apartment all right and then went inside. After getting back, I texted literally all my friends about it. I was hoping that maybe it was a prank or something, but everyone denied it. They all seemed just as puzzled and curious about it as I was. I was so puzzled that I actually went to the police about it the next day. I told them the entire story, but they said there wasn't really anything they could do. No law had been broken by taking pictures in the supermarket and then giving them to me. Sure, it was creepy, but technically it was not illegal. They did say that it was very strange and interesting, and I was told that if anything else strange happened, I could let them know. But since then, nothing else strange has happened. I've been back to the grocery store once since it occurred, and it went by normally. I didn't get any envelope or see anybody taking my picture or anything. I'm hoping it stays that way. This happened 5 years ago, but I will never forget it. It all happened one seemingly normal Thursday night. I was doing some late night shopping at the supermarket. With it being a little bit later, it wasn't nearly as busy. There were a few people here and there also shopping, but I was able to get what I needed pretty quickly. In the process of doing this though, there was one shopper who I kept noticing. It was this woman, and she had blonde hair, sort of messy, and it seemed like she was watching me, because I noticed her once, and then noticed her again at the other end of the store. I thought that it was a coincidence until I saw her another time, and that time, she was just walking behind me. She didn't have a cart or anything, and didn't really seem to be shopping. I never saw her looking at any items on the shelves. It just seemed weird to me. I saw her several more times as I shopped, but overall, I just ignored her. Eventually, I was done shopping, and I went to check out. I didn't see her anymore then. After I paid for everything, I walked out to my car and still didn't notice the woman. I figured that she must have stopped following me at some point. I didn't know why she had been seemingly following me, but I really didn't care anymore. So I left the store and I went back home. I lived alone in a smaller house at this time, and it was maybe 10 minutes away. So I got back and then brought everything inside my house. When I was putting the groceries away, I saw this car going down my street. It then pulled onto the side of the road and stopped right in front of my house. The car's headlights turned off, and then I heard the engine turn off as well. I didn't know who was driving, and this had never really happened before. I walked over to the front window in the living room and looked out to see. Obviously, it was too dark to tell who was driving. I watched the car for a while, and nobody got out. It was suspicious, but eventually, I ignored it and moved on. I was tired and had to be going to bed soon, so I remembered that I got ready for bed and then looked out the window once more. The car was still there. I hadn't noticed anybody getting out of it though. I figured though that most likely somebody had gotten out, I just didn't notice. They probably went to one of the neighbors' houses. Why they parked in front of my house, I didn't know, but whatever. So I went to bed. After falling asleep, I woke up sometime in the night. I remember a very short time after waking, I heard a noise from my window. I looked over and saw a woman staring at me directly on the other side. It was the same woman I had seen at the grocery store. I was really confused. I got up and turned on all the lights. She moved away from the window, and then I went into the living room. When I got there, I saw the woman running through my front yard. She then got inside of the car that was still parked on the side of the road in front of my house. Then she drove away. So it was her who was driving the car. I really didn't know what to do. I called the police and reported the incident, but the woman was long gone. I didn't know her license plate or anything. The only thing that I could do was tell them what happened and give them a basic description of her. But luckily after that, I never saw her again. For some background to this story, I'm a female, and this happened years ago when I was a kid. I believe I was 10 or 12, and I remember that I was with my mom and little sister. The three of us were in the car together and going somewhere. I really can't remember where. I just know that on the way, I remembered something I had to get. I don't even remember what it was, but it was something from a grocery store. My little sister was very young, and the three of us going in the store would take much longer than just one of us. We must have been in a hurry or something, because I remember that my mom dropped me off. She was going to park in a nearby space in the parking lot, and told me to run in and get whatever it was really quick. She gave me some money and dropped me off at the doors. Well, I went inside, and I thought that I would be able to find whatever it was pretty easily. I just remember that I had a really tough time finding it. I was walking up and down each aisle looking around, and not too long into this, I remember this creepy guy started following me. When I went around a corner, I noticed him maybe 20 feet back turning the corner with me. I went down that aisle, and then into the next one over from that. He did the same. At this point, I was still looking for whatever it was I needed to get. But after the guy followed me for a few aisles, I lost focus. I was now just thinking about the guy, and paranoid that he was following me. I remember I just started walking around the entire store pretty randomly. He followed me just about everywhere that I went. The store was not really that busy, but there were enough people around that I guess it wasn't that noticeable. Eventually, I gave up on trying to find whatever it was that I wanted. I just wanted to get away from the man. So I started walking to the entrance of the store. I had to go all the way across the entire store to make it back, and once I did, I walked out and left. The man did the same thing. I looked around for my mom's car as fast as I could. At first, I didn't see it, but then, as I made it maybe 20 feet or so into the parking lot, I noticed it. I remember that she was at one end against the grass. I started running as fast as I could over to the car. The man did not run after me, but continued to walk in my direction. I was able to make it to my mom's car, and I tried opening the door, but it was locked. I banged on the door until my mom unlocked it for me just a few seconds later. I got inside, out of breath, and my mom asked me what was going on. She realized that I didn't even get anything. I told her some guy was following me. At this point, we looked up, and the man was just kind of standing around. He was only about 10 feet away from the van, on the other side. I told my mom that he had followed me all the way around the store. I remember at that point, the man started to walk over to us. My mom then backed out and left. The man didn't get a chance to reach us or say anything. After we drove away, my mom called the store and I guess reported the incident. I really don't remember much else. That was my scariest experience I ever had at the grocery store.